Good afternoon and welcome to Switch Focus News right here on Switch TV. I am Lincoln Wambogo. Our sign language interpreter is Teresia Washira, and these are the top stories. Emmanuel Korir has won Kenya's first gold medal in the men's 800-meter final at the Tokyo Olympic Games. Ferguson Rotich came in second, maintaining Kenya's dominance over the 800 meters category. What a day to present news when Kenya has bagged gold and silver. Tanzania has launched a COVID-19 vaccination drive to contain the third wave of the COVID-19 epidemic in the country. Yesterday was the first day for Tanzania to vaccinate its population, and this is expected to be an ongoing exercise. According to health authorities, priority for vaccination is given to frontline workers, the elderly, and those with underlying health issues, Munga narrates.
The Tanzanian Ministry of Health on Monday launched a vaccination application channel on its website. Tanzania has distributed about 1 million doses of vaccine to 550 medical institutions across the country. Those who are eligible for vaccination may complete the application by logging onto the official website and go to the designated medical institution with their personal documents to fill in the form and receive inoculation. After the vaccination, the recipients will be given a vaccination certificate.
I believe in the existence of the COVID-19, so the government suggested that we should be vaccinated. That is why I came here to get the vaccine. I haven't injected it yet, but I am ready.
At present, Tanzania is suffering from the third wave of the epidemic. The country reported 176 new confirmed cases of COVID-19 and 29 deaths in just one day, according to the health minister in Tanzania on July 23rd. This is the second time the number has been disclosed since June 28th, when Tanzanian President Samia Suluhu Hassan said 100 people had been infected with the virus. The Tanzanian government is hoping that vaccination will help prevent the third wave of the disease from spreading.
I've heard that the virus is very dangerous and spreads very fast. There were a lot of deaths around the world, so I thought if the vaccine came, I should get it to make sure I'm safe.
The Tanzanian government plans to vaccinate 60% of the country's population. However, there's still widespread misinterpretation and unobjective understanding of the vaccine in Tanzania. Therefore, promoting the safety and scientific nature of vaccination is the current focus of the health sector. Munga, Switch TV.
Thank you, Munga. Meanwhile, Tunisian President Kais Saied has ordered the military to take over the COVID-19 response by setting up field hospitals nationwide to curb the further spread of the virus and guarantee the safety of COVID-19 patients. President Saied has said that a new operations room will manage the pandemic response. The facility will include representatives of the Ministries of National Defense, Interior Affairs and Foreign Affairs, as well as the Health, Transport and Environment departments, as Robert Omer reports.
The Military Health Department has set up a field hospital in the governorate of Manuba, which includes 2 complete ICUs. The first with 50 intensive care beds and second one with 50 oxygen-fitted beds. These field hospitals also include 100 ventilators and 2 oxygen generators, ensuring that oxygen supply with daily production of 3,000 liters.
An independent generator provides autonomy in electricity for this hospital. The safety of patients is guaranteed. This facility will reinforce the capacity of hospitals.
The number of field hospitals for COVID-19 patients in Tunisia now stand at 7, with 5 more additional field hospitals to be set up in the governorate in the coming days.
Following the order of Mr. President, we will set up a field hospital in each city to take care of patients.
The acting health minister Mohamed Trabelsi said that oxygen shortage still persists in the country, adding that the quantity of oxygen consumed in hospitals have increased to 6-fold since the outbreak began in Tunisia.
Oxygen shortage remains a real problem. Importing oxygen is very challenging during the pandemic. Tunisia produces only 100,000 liters of oxygen per day, while our daily need is 250,000 liters. We need to import some 150,000 liters of oxygen per day to find providers on the international market.
The COVID-19 Pandemic Management Operation Room is in charge of monitoring the development of health situation in the country. It will also monitor the strategic stockline of the pandemic supplies, including pharmaceuticals and medical equipment. Robert Omer, Switch TV News.
An audacious attack on the Afghan defense minister's house in Kabul has left at least 8 dead, the first major bombing by militants in the city for nearly a year. Bismillah Khan Mohammadi was not at home last night as gunmen detonated a car bomb and fired shots near the heavily fortified green zone. The Taliban has claimed responsibility for the attack, Robert Oman narrates.
More than 20 other people were reportedly wounded in the incident.
Yeah?
Police say that 4 of the 5
Aikuna?
attackers were also killed after they managed to enter the minister's villa. The interior minister said that it was a suicide bomb attack. Police forces rushed to the neighborhood just outside the green zone, the heavily fortified enclave where many embassies and the government buildings are located. A gun battle that lasted for more than 3 hours finally ended the assault. Hours later, a crowd of Kabul residents took to the streets and rooftops to shout Allahu Akbar, meaning God is grateful, in defiance of the Taliban attacks. Similar scenes had also been recorded on Monday in the city of Herat, which has also seen heavy fighting in the recent days. The public show of defiance is a key to boost the morale of embattled Afghanistan security forces, with the militants attempting to wrest control of a number of provincial capitals. Fierce fighting between the militants and the government forces has continued in the city of Lashkargah, the capital of the southern Helmand province, with the UN saying yesterday that at least 40 civilians had been killed on Monday. The Afghan army urged the civilians to leave the city ahead of the major offensive against the Taliban, the hardline Islamist group that was driven from power by the US-led forces 20 years ago. Fighting has been continuing in the city for days, with the militants now in control of almost all the districts. The United Nations and other agencies are warning of a worsening humanitarian crisis. There are reports that Taliban fighters have taken position inside homes, shops, and other bazaars. People are trapped in their homes while fighting goes on in the streets. Elsewhere in the south, Taliban are trying to capture Kandahar, their former stronghold, and clashes have also intensified in the western city of Herat. Robert Omar, Switch TV News.
Thank you, Robert Oman. Moving on. People in Lebanon were still suffering from repercussions of the deadly explosions which rocked Beirut port 1 year ago, with a vast number of locals mired in dire and dilapidated living environments and worsening economic political crisis which overlapped with poorly handled COVID-19 pandemic containment measures. Lillian Miner with this report.
Lebanese people have been disrupted in their daily livelihoods by power shortages and outages, failures in maintenance of civil facilities, as well as strain on accessibility to hospital services despite 1 year on after the blast. Among them is Joseph Al-Tak, an asthma patient. The explosion did not cause a major blow to his family, but after the disaster, power outages sometimes put him in danger.
If there's a power outage when I need to use a ventilator, I had to take medicine as an alternative until the power came back on. I could connect to the ventilator and use it.
Altak said that the government only supplies electricity for 1 to 2 hours per day, so he has to resort to the generator, but it can only extend electricity available to 5 hours in his household, far from enough to the needs of life. What's worse, the nightmare of electricity blackout has expanded to hospitals, casting gloom over the country's fight against COVID-19, with some worrying the darker the day to come.
I'm worried when people say darker days are coming. Today's power is out for a while. Fuel may run out completely and Lebanon may be plunged into darkness. We don't know what's going to happen in the future.
The shortage of medicines is another problem worrying Altak a lot. The price of his medicines increases by up to 2.5 times compared to last year, and some are no longer sold in the pharmacies.
Sometimes I can get it and sometimes I can't. I have to go to a lot of pharmacies. As you see, the power is off again.
To break Lebanon's current paralysis, regional experts advocate that the International Monetary Fund, donor countries and experts set up funds and initiatives, and a new government that represents the people to be formed.
That story by Lillian Miner from Lebanon takes us to a short commercial break. Stay tuned, we'll be back with more. Welcome back. You can watch us on live on YouTube at Switch TV Kenya and Facebook at Switch TV Kenya. Send in your comments and feedback to our SMS line 111 or Switch TV Kenya and link on Mbogo on all social media handles. A police officer has died after being stabbed in a violent incident at a transit station of the Pentagon, the headquarters of the United States military, and the suspect was shot by law enforcement and died at the scene. The Pentagon in Arlington, Virginia, just across the Potomac River from Washington, D.C., was temporarily placed on lockdown after gunshots were fired near the entrance of the building. Robert Homer reports on this incident.
Pentagon Force Protection Agency Chief Woodrow Kusi confirmed in a media conference that a Pentagon police officer was attacked on the DC Metro bus platform that is a part of the Pentagon Transit Center. Kusi declined to confirm officer's death or the condition of the suspect, citing that the case is still going and the investigation was being led by the FBI. Kusi said that the incident was over, the Pentagon was safe, and the police were not searching for additional suspects. The agency responsible for security at the building, the Pentagon Force Protection Agency, tweeted shortly before noon that the scene of the incident was secure. The lockdown was lifted except for areas around the crime scene. The Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin and General Mark Milley, the chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff, were at the White House meeting with President Joe Biden at the time of the shooting. When Secretary Austin returned to the Pentagon, he visited the Pentagon Police Operations Center and was very concerned about the casualties that occurred. Kirby did not confirm casualties and said that he was unable to provide additional information. Robert Omar, Switch TV News.
Robert Homer, thank you. Gun sales among minorities in the U.S. have been on the rise since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. According to Firearms Industry Trade Association, millions of Americans bought their first ever gun in 2020, and many of the new gun owners are African Americans and Asian Americans. There's also been a sharp increase in violence against the Asian American Pacific Islander or AAPI community since the start of the pandemic. The Asian Pacific American Gun Owners Association said fear is driving the surge in gun purchases by Asian Americans.
With us living here in Prince George's County, Maryland, as you may know, it's one of the wealthiest African American counties in the country, and it seemed like a lot of my friends had a general fear of guns, or either they just didn't, or they just didn't know about how to use a gun or how to properly go about owning one. So we decided to start a gun club.
A lot of the members that we're getting are from people who have specifically purchased a gun or are looking to purchase a gun because of the recent violence against Asian Americans during the pandemic.
The mismatch between available jobs and the jobs that people want is causing labor shortages across industries in the United States, with the hospitality industry particularly reeling from the impact of COVID-19. As more people get vaccinated, the U.S. economy is also heating up again. But even though there is a near record number of jobs openings, unemployment remains high, as Apollo James reports.
Kathy Neal is the co-owner of Harrison's, where getting a reservation needs a 2-week wait. Although demand is booming, there are still many empty tables due to staff shortages in the restaurant.
We're short like a waitress, and we're short someone in the kitchen. And it has made us rethink our whole business plan.
Harrison's is now open 4 nights a week and has reduced operating hours.
We had to make a decision. Do you just push it and risk burning out your staff? Or do you pull it in a little bit and just limit what you're going to take? And that's the route we decided to go.
Restaurants across the United States face similar tough times, as many are having a hard time attracting workers. Other industries like retail, transportation, and manufacturing also face labor shortages, yet unemployment remains elevated. Experts say there's a mismatch between the jobs available and the jobs workers want and are qualified for. Conservative groups say elevated unemployment benefits, which are still in effect in some states, are to blame for the labor shortage, while U.S. President Biden holds low pay accountable for the high unemployment rate. But Neal isn't convinced it's all about the pay. She and others in the industry have raised wages.
Hospitality was hit very hard, so a lot of people were like, maybe I'll change and do something different.
She believes the pandemic caused many to take stock of their lives and prioritize a healthier balance between work and life. Apollo James, Switch TV.
Thank you, Apollo James. Forest fires have been raging, pushing up temperatures and strong winds and low humidity in more than 30 provinces in Turkey, killing at least 8 persons and forcing evacuation of hundreds of thousands of locals and tourists. In the world-renowned tourism destination of Bodrum, the fires have been raging on for days on end, threatening the villages. Mariam Jahid with more on this story.
Firefighters say that they are fighting a seesaw battle with the controlled fires often rekindled. The tourist spots have been badly hit by over 130 forest fires that erupted almost a week ago. A large number of local residents and tourists were evacuated into the region's 5 temporary shelters. More than 500 volunteers, mostly consisted of local residents, have gathered there to provide help and distribute relief supplies to the affected people. More than 10,000 people have so far been evacuated from Mugla province alone, where Bodrum is located. In addition to Magla, more than 30 provinces and cities, including Antalya and Mashin, have also been in the grip of forest fires for days. Tens of thousands of hectares of forest have been burned down and many villages have been badly affected. The fires are the biggest on record and authorities are investigating whether it is the natural causes or artificial sabotage. Mariam Jahid, Swish TV.
Thank you, Mariam Jahid. Hundreds of residents living near forest area north of Athens fled their homes as a wildfire reached residential areas, fueled by Greece's worst heat wave in decades. The blaze sent smoke over the capital and prompted multiple evacuations near Tatoi, 20 kilometers north of Athens. Many residents left their homes in cars and motorcycles and headed towards the capital as smoke blanketed residential areas, as Sazamunga narrates.
It has been reported that the highest temperature in Greece, especially in Makrokomi, reached 46.3 degrees Celsius yesterday. According to the Hellenic National Meteorological Service, the heat wave is expected to peak early next week, but will continue until Friday. The fire in a dense pine forest in Anovrea-Bobi has been spreading quickly in the hot and dry weather that has gripped the country since last Thursday. The authorities have reinforced the fire brigade and deployed aerial firefighters to battle the blaze. Yesterday, 350 firefighters were dispatched in the area, 10 teams on foot and 70 vehicles, 5 helicopters and 5 aircraft, including a Russian Berev B-200 amphibious plane, as well as an army of volunteers and municipal crews. The Civil Protection Service issued an emergency 112 alert to residents of Arabobi and Adems, urging them to evacuate their homes. The fire has led to the closure of the Athens-Lamia National Highway in both directions. The suburban train service between Athens and Thessaloniki has also been suspended. The fire has damaged a 400-kilowatt electricity transmitter, causing voltage fluctuations across Athens and power outages in some parts of the capital. Greece is hit by wildfires every summer. In 2018, 102 people died in the coastal resort of Mati, near Athens, in the country's worst ever heat forest inferno. Experts have warned that climate change was increasing both the frequency and intensity of the wildfires. The country wildfires can be associated with not only higher temperatures, but also lower precipitation. Dry wood burns more easily and more quickly, making the wildfires more severe and allowing them to spread more quickly. Sazamunga, Switch TV.
Thank you, Sazamunga. Moving on, migrant laborers from Myanmar, Cambodia and Laos are left high and dry in Thailand as Thai authorities have taken a drastic measure in an effort to curb the spread of COVID-19 in Bangkok by sealing off 575 worker camp sites in the city. Since June, the Thai police have been mobilized to seal off construction sites to ensure workers do not leave in an attempt to contain the virus that is ravaging the country. Rachel Ndwati with more details.
The move has put more than 80,000 construction workers living on the sites in limbo. The construction sites being closed, they have no income to buy food and other necessities. Ton, a Myanmar migrant worker, has not eaten for 2 days. He lives with more than 40 other migrants from Myanmar and Cambodia at a sealed-off construction site in the heart of Bangkok. Before the pandemic, they lived, ate and slept in unfinished buildings and sent most of their savings home to support their families. However, they are now out of work and options.
We are suffering. We have no money. We cannot send money home to our families who are also suffering. We want to go home. Even if we have nothing, at least we can be with our family.
There is an estimated 4 to 5 million migrant workers in Thailand, with the majority from Myanmar, Cambodia, and Laos. Most are living at the mercy of their employers, with factories closed and construction camps sealed off. Hundreds of thousands of migrants living under the shadow of the pandemic have been cut off from aid and assistance. With no job, many have fled back to their home countries, but still suffered financial distress.
The life of a Cambodian migrant is like escaping a tiger, but falling into the mouth of a crocodile. They are overwhelmed with difficulties. Around 80% of them are desperate to return home.
Cross-border migration is now full of risks. The once well-trodden routes of the past have been redrawn with checkpoints set up everywhere. For those who did manage to return to their home country, they went back only to find scant opportunities. There are no jobs for them in Thailand or their home country, which has left many of them in financial trouble. 2 months ago, Duong, a Cambodian migrant worker, made this journey. She crossed safely, only to end up in a tiny classroom of a rural school transformed into a quarantine camp in Cambodia. COVID-19 spread among migrants there. She was confined with 7 other people, all sharing one bathroom. Now back in Cambodia with her son, she knows she may just open up a can of worms.
It was a difficult decision to return. I know there is no job here. I don't have land for farming, so all I can do is to stay at home. There was no work in Thailand for more than a month, and I had no work. For Thailand's migrant workers, the deadly third wave is a crisis compounding their troubled life already full of anxiety and uncertainty. Thailand has long been a destination for Cambodians seeking work. According to Cambodia's Ministry of Labor, there are about 1,020,000 Cambodian migrant workers in Thailand. Labor rights NGOs, however, estimated that the real number is closer to 2 million. Thailand is currently fighting its worst surge in infections driven by the highly contagious Delta variant. Rachel Ndwati for Switch TV News.
Thank you, Rachel Ndwati, for that story. Still can't get over Kenya's win. Emmanuel Korir did us proud on the 800 men's meters category. Well, that story wraps up our news podcast this afternoon. Many thanks for watching. Stay tuned for a subsequent bulletin at 7 p.m. I am Lincoln Wambogo, sign language interpreter SITUATION Washira. My producer has been Lillian Minor. Good afternoon.